Have you ever been sitting across from a seller at a listing presentation and they ask for a discount? And before you've even had a second to think about it, you've already said yes, or let me see what I can do. I used to think that happened because I didn't have a good enough script. So I went and got some better scripts, memorized objection handlers, practiced my tone, and it still happened. It wasn't until I started actually paying attention to the moment itself, not the words, the moment, that I realized something. I wasn't losing that money because I lacked a script. I was losing it because of a pattern I learned before I was probably 7 or 10 years old. Now, that may sound a little dramatic, I know, and stick with me because once I saw it, I couldn't stop seeing it in myself and in almost every other agent that I've been coaching since. So here's some quick context if we haven't met before. I'm Coach Carrie Whitaker. I spent over 20 years as a licensed realtor here in the Texas San Antonio market. I was a Platinum Top 50 finalist, held CRS, GRI, and RFC designations all along the way. So when I talk about what happens at the listing table, I'm not theorizing. I lived 2 decades of it. And here's the thing. Somewhere in those 20 years, I realized strategy alone wasn't fixing what I kept seeing in myself and the agents that I mentored. So I went and got certified in NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, time techniques, EFT, and hypnotherapy. And I'm board certified by the International Board of Clinical Practitioners. That's the lens this entire video is coming to you from. Not, here's a better script to memorize. Instead, here's what's actually running underneath scripts and words. And outside all of that, I'm a master gardener and a fairly obsessive butterfly enthusiast, which honestly ties directly into this more than you might think, because I contributed to a book called Becoming Positively Awesome about exactly this exact thing, transformation. Watching something rewire itself into something stronger that will take flight. That's not just a gardening thing for me, a nature thing for me. It's the whole premise of today's video, just applied to your pricing conversation instead of a butterfly chrysalis. So today I want to walk you through what I learned about why we cave on price, where that pattern actually comes from, and the one reframe that finally let me hold my ground and close at full value. So let's get into it, shall we? Here's where it started for me. I noticed that I had this brand of unease in a certain situation, not necessarily when I was selling. It was when I was being told no, or even just sensing that someone might be about to push back. And I started asking, where do I actually know this feeling from? And the honest answer was young childhood, way before real estate. Think about it. As a kid, you need approval. Your need for approval isn't even just a nice to have, would like to have. It's to get through, to survive. If the people around you were disappointed in you or they pulled away from you, that registered as a threat, even if nobody ever said it out loud to you. So you learned fast how to keep people happy, how to keep things steady, comfortable, how to smooth things over, how to be liked. Nobody teaches you that you're doing this. You just do it instinctively, naturally, and it works for a kiddo. It keeps me safe, you safe. Now, I wasn't the agent who folded. I was actually the agent who walked away too soon. And it carried over into my first professional position too. This pattern ran everywhere. My former boss recruited me heavily for a position. I was sought out. And in the thick of declining sales and corporate restructuring and the typical pressure that pushes downhill to the bottom ranks, my boss stood within 2 inches of my face, pointed his finger in my face, and said to me, "My, what a disappointment you are." This is the problem. That pattern didn't just stay through my childhood. It rides along with you into adulthood. And for a lot of us, it shows up the moment someone we're trying to do business with pushes back or is disappointed in us or just didn't get it, right? So here's what I think is actually happening at that listing table. When a seller is pushing back on your price, your brain doesn't experience that as a business negotiation. It's experiencing it as a threat of rejection, or you're not good enough, you're making a mistake. And to stay safe, to keep the listing, to keep being liked, you sacrifice your value. Often, you sacrifice your commission, your fee. I know I did. So I saw a comment a while back talking about exactly this. How childhood rejection patterns lead directly to lowering your price. And this speaks to me really big time because that's exactly the invisible thing I'd been circling around for years without really knowing it or even naming it specifically. Comments like that basically wrote this video for you today. One of the things I do a lot is reframe that. So once I could recognize the pattern, the next question naturally became, how do I pattern interrupt it, right? Because knowing I do this because of childhood stuff doesn't on its own change anything at the listing table, does it? The first thing I had to learn to notice was the feeling. What is the feeling? And what I started calling it was the flinch. It's that split second when the price gets challenged and something in your chest or even in your stomach, you feel it drop. And for me, it's almost a bracing feeling, like before you get hit with bad news, it's that signaling, right? That old pattern firing off. Notice it. Bring awareness to that now. So that's what I learned to do. And this took some practice. It didn't happen immediately overnight or the very first time. To catch that flinch, ask myself one question instead of the automatic reaction to it. The old thought is, if I don't discount, they won't like me. They won't hire me. The new thought, deliberately that you're building, is, if I don't hold my price right here, I'm proving to them that I can't protect their equity in a negotiation. That's the whole shift, the whole reframe. It's not about being tougher or colder, did all of those things. It's about realizing what discounting actually demonstrates to the client in that moment. So here's the line that made it click for me, and I want you to hear it and just sit with it for a minute. If you can't defend your own 3%, how can they trust you to defend their 97%? Because that's really what they're watching. Whether they could put words to it or not, they're not negotiating your fee. They're getting a live preview of how you're going to negotiate on their behalf with a buyer 6 or so weeks from listing. And that's speaking to what? Value. Let me share another personal story. And what's interesting is my version of this pattern didn't usually look like discounting commission. Most of the time, I knew exactly what my fee was worth, and I held my fee. I knew how hard I worked. I knew how much I cared for the client and the outcome. I knew how fiercely I protected my client's interests. My pattern showed up on the other side. So instead of discounting, I would just walk away. If a seller was going to challenge my fee, my attitude was basically, well, take it or leave it. This is my fee. And so while that protected my values, It didn't necessarily serve my business. I lost a lot of business because of that, walking away. Eventually, I realized something really important. Holding your value and communicating your value are not the same skill. I didn't need more conviction. I already had conviction and I knew my worth. What I needed was language. I needed a way to help people understand why that fee even existed in the first place. The lesson wasn't charge less. The lesson wasn't even be firm. The lesson was to learn how to connect my value to their desired outcome. Wow. Okay, so this is the part where I actually show you what I say now, in the moment, when this would come up. This is not really a theory, it's the actual words to say. So the seller says, would you do it for 5%? And instead of the flinch and fold, here's what I say. Calm, not defensive, almost curious, because I really am curious. I appreciate you asking that. And I want to think about something along with you for just a second. If I'm this easy to fold on my value right now, before we've even listed your house, just imagine for a moment, if you will, just imagine for a moment how quickly I would fold when a buyer's agent tries to shave $50,000 off your home's price. I mean, wow. Is that the negotiator you actually want? Representing you, representing your equity. Now notice what that does. It doesn't make the conversation about my costs, my fees. It makes it about their protection. I'm not asking them to feel bad for pushing on my fee. I respect that. I'm showing them in real time what kind of advocate they're getting if I hold firm versus what they'd be getting if I didn't hold firm. And here's the thing, I didn't expect when I started saying this. Sellers don't get defensive. They don't. Most of the time they actually relax just a little because what they were really testing, even though they didn't maybe consciously know it, was whether or not I would cave under pressure and if I could be trusted. Now they're no longer guessing about that. They have the evidence that I'm solid. So we're good to go now. So if there's one thing I want you to take from this video, it's this. The next time you feel that pull to discount, that flinch, pause for 3 seconds before you respond. Just 3 seconds. That pause is enough to tell the difference between your childhood pattern, talking and wanting to be liked, and the professional in the room responding with conviction, confidence, certainty. In that 3 seconds, ask yourself this question. Am I about to prove I can be folded? Or am I about to prove that I can protect their equity? This is my value. I don't think I'd ever have seen this in myself without someone else naming it. And so if this resonates with you, if you have felt that rejection fear sitting across from a seller before, tell me about it in the comments. I read the comments, and some of the very best ideas for these videos come directly from what you share and are letting me know that you want. And if this is the kind of thing that you want to work on for real with a partner, not just in a comment thread and behind the scenes, with real people sharpening this same edge alongside you, that's what we build together in the Greenhouse Collective. It's not chasing the next deal. It's about building the kind of confidence and structure where your pipeline isn't the thing holding your self-worth hostage. The link's below if you want to see what that looks like, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.